Really excited to welcome to the In Goal Radio podcast, first time guest, hopefully first time of many, Andrea Braendli, the top goalie at the Olympics, bronze medal winner for Switzerland, coming off a fantastic tournament. And if you're hearing that name or you watched her at the Olympics and you thought this was an out of nowhere story, you haven't been paying attention. National champion at the Ohio State, goalie of the year in the Swedish Women's League, has excelled throughout. Where does the last week rank amidst all the accomplishments? Is that the biggest?
Yes and no, I would
Okay.
say.
Okay.
I would say yes, obviously, because of the outcome, like winning a bronze medal at the Olympic Games. I think everyone can agree to that. That's just a dream come true. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of like personal experience, it's one of the tops for sure, but maybe not the alone top experience.
Okay. So where are the other ones? Like what am I missing here?
I would say another top one that we had that I experienced was the under 18 Division One World Championship where we won and got promoted to top division. I think that just like sticks out to me because it was my first like major event that I like major tournament that I won with the national team. And I was young and I was like, this is my, first time ever, just like being at World Championship number one, playing all the games and just winning best goalie of the tournament. So I think just the fact that that was my first ever tournament, just like is also have very high on that list.
What's these last few days been like since winning the bronze? What's the celebration been like? What's the outreach been like? And you, as I understand it, like you're going right back into playoffs with for Lunda, so not a lot of time to enjoy it. How's that? How you balance that?
It's been busy. Wow. Like no one really talks about the aftermath of winning a big medal, I would say. And I think everyone can agree to that. Like you don't really think about that. You don't want to think about it because you like think if you think about the aftermath, you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna jinx it. You're
Right.
not. I think it's good if you think about the aftermath and prepare for that a little bit too, whatever way it went. But yeah, it's been busy, very busy. A lot of media stuff, a lot of interviews and podcasts and all of that. And we love to do it. Don't get me wrong, but I also like right back. I had two games since the end of the Olympics with Frölunda already. Playoffs starting Monday, so. Yeah, it's busy. There's no times for breaks here.
Well, I appreciate you fitting us into that incredibly busy schedule. Let's rewind a little bit because everybody got to see you on the Olympic stage. Um,
Mhm.
the roots of this. Where did this all start for you? Where did the passion for goaltending and hockey? How did what's the origin story?
Oh wow. Back in the days, if I may so. It's been what, 25 years ago when I started.
So you were three.
I was, yes, at a lovely
Wow.
young age of 3 years old. I was basically barely able to walk and run, and I was skating on the ice, and I fell in love with it, basically. But there's a fun story to that actually, because it wasn't me that was like, I want to go on the ice. It was my mom basically just putting me out there because my brother, I have a 2 year older brother, and he started playing hockey, and it was a pretty like time consuming effort for my mom, I guess, to like go back and forth between my brother's practices, watching me at home, and time management. So she at some point was like, you know what, it would be easier if both kids would be on the same ice. So there we are. She put me out there, and I like kind of like showed some talent, I guess, and just kept going with it. So that was the origin story of hockey. Goalie came a bit later, I would say, but similar way, like I watched like I had an older brother, he needed a goalie. So who would you
That's
put in that? The younger sister, obviously.
what did you love about it? What do you love about it now? What drives you and fuels the passion for the position at all these years later?
Um, I would say that uniqueness, like you're the goalie isn't, yes, you're still in the team sport, you're still with the team, but it's such a unique position. You're so like by yourself in unique ways that no one really can understand you. And I think it's the mixture of that uniqueness, having that sole responsibility within the team. You're like special in more than just one way, I would say, as a goalie, but you're so special because you have so unique requirements, unique pressures, the position itself, there's so much, I don't know, there's excitement around everything you do, that's just like every time I step on the ice, I'm like, ooh, that's fun. I love it.
Now, I know you studied psychology. The pressure that you mentioned there, learning to deal with it on a stage as big as this, even though you've been on that stage before, can you share tips or advice for other young goalies? I mean, for them, it may be the playoffs at U13 coming up next weekend versus an Olympic stage, but we all sort of feel those nerves in big moments. How, through all your experience, as well as maybe your degree, I don't know, or you're studying psychology, if that played a role, how have you learned to manage that as well as we saw you do it in Milano?
It was a process, let me tell you, it wasn't a talent or a gift that I had growing up. And I think that's something young goalies or young athletes in general need to understand. That it's not, you don't really have a talent for that. You're not better or worse of handling nerves. It's not good or bad if you get nervous or not. I think it's always like a process for you to find the right way. For me, what helped, and I think that probably will help a lot of goalies if you realize that it's no difference between a playoff game and the practice or a preseason game or just a regular season game. It's the same sport, you know. And once I realized that, it's so much easier going into any kind of game because that's what you practice for. That's why you stand on the ice every day or every other day or however many times you go on the ice because at the end of the day, it's the same sport, no matter if the outcome is an Olympic medal or just 3 points or 1 point or no points.
So just a matter of like, do you actively remind yourself that heading into a bronze medal game, or is it innate at this point, or arriving at that process? Because sometimes a lot of the things I find in goaltending, or we find in goaltending, like one shot at a time mentality. Super easy for me to say standing here, but when you get in the moment, yet you sort of need to develop different mechanisms that allow you to get there. How have you sort of been able to arrive at, hey, it's just another hockey game?
It was a learning curve for sure. It took me a while to figure out on like how much I can tell myself that it's just a game because you want some sort of tension,
Right.
obviously. Like I always also like I allow nervousness or like just in general that excitement. Like I don't suppress it because I think you can also use that for your benefit. Like
Okay.
turn it into like energy or like drive or competitiveness, that you really go for every puck. But for me, like when that nerve like when the nerves hit you, the emotions hit you and it turns into something negative, like you can feel it makes you tense up or like makes you feel nauseous or like you can't breathe anymore. That's like the moment I tell myself, hey, this is just an ordinary game. This is the same sport that I did literally yesterday. There's no difference to that. And it worked out yesterday without any preparation for practice. So why shouldn't it work out today with everything I have with the pregame skate or whatever, like it's the same sport. So it should work out. So that's usually, but I learned that through also like getting to know myself a bit more. Like, and that's like with failure sometimes too, like I had to have some moments where I like told myself, oh, it's just a game and I had no tension at all in my body and then just played horrible that game. That's okay. But that like made me learn like how much I can steer my emotions by telling myself this is just an ordinary game. That makes sense.
It does. I mean, that's kind of one of the beauties of the position is those things, as well as how you play it, like technically, tactically, like there is no one way. I think it's what I love about the position. There is
Mhm.
no, very few absolutes. Everybody has to find their balance in all these different sliding scales.
No, for sure. And I think it's the importance of having a good goalie coach for me because a goalie coach, if a goalie coach really understands that aspect of a goalie and doesn't try you to fit into like a pre-made like idea of a goalie. Once he understands that everyone's different, like he can really really elevate your game by supporting your way, by knowing what you need and what the other goalie needs. And that's when a good goalie coach comes into play and can help you so much.
So who are some of the influences for you over the years? I was going to ask about two things, inspirations, but let's go to influences first. The goalie coaches along the path, because once you committed to goalie, I mean, there's a lot of success here, a long resume. By the time you're 16, you're winning Swiss championships. How did your game take shape and evolve? And I'm imagining there's a lot of evolution from 16 through college, through national team and playing pro. How has it evolved? Who are some of the key influences along the way?
Again, with that, is like sometimes you get good and bad like experiences with coaches.
Of course.
And you learn from both, I would say. Like I almost learned more from having a bad goalie coach and having a really good goalie coach, if that makes sense. Because it made me
way?
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but having a bad goalie coach for me was always like such an eye-opening moment that I can't rely on outside sources sometimes. Like it made me also like learn how to think logically by evaluating my game for myself because I can't rely on someone else.
So you needed to be your own goalie coach.
Exactly. And I needed to develop those skills as well. And I think it helped me so much that like now I don't rely on outside sources in any way, not in terms of motivation, not in terms of analyzing my game or my practices or every shot in practice. Like I do that automatically, like for myself, but I had to learn that through having like not so good goalie coaches, I would say. If that makes sense.
When you say not so good, like just maybe hands off, not teaching you stuff, or have there been moments? Because I think a lot of goalies go through this, especially as they move up the ranks. And, if you move to different teams, you'll get a new voice. And that voice also controls whether you play or not. So you sort of need to do to a certain degree what they tell you to do, but sometimes what they want you to do might not fit your game. Did you some experiences there?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I had plenty of goalie coaches who tried to change me into the way they wanted goalies to be. But then at some point, I had to hit the brakes, and I'm like, hey, what you're telling me is not what fits my style or what fits me personally. But I had to, and that's, I think, an important lesson also for young goalies is to speak up for yourself. Because like at the end of the day, yes, the goalie coach will decide if you play or not, or will talk to the head coach if who he wants to play. But at the end of the day, the head coach decides and the head coach watches practices. So if you listen to your goalie coach that will try to change you and it affects your performance negatively on the ice, that's just a cycle, like a bad cycle, a negative cycle that's just going to make it worse and worse and worse also mentally for you. So at some point you need to speak up for yourself and be like, hey, I can't listen to you anymore, or we need to discuss it because I don't think that fits me. I think it's always important to have a good discussion going on, whether that is negative or positive, but there needs to be some sort of discussion at some point because it's not going to do you good if the goalie coach is trying to change you and you just listen because you think you have to,
Right. So at the end of the day, you need to understand your game to know, like it. You need to have a true understanding of your game as opposed to just try everything, but understand what and I guess why what does or doesn't work as opposed to just, hey, I don't like this.
No, exactly. I think it's important to try things because, I also had to learn, I can be stubborn, my head could be pretty stubborn when someone new comes in and be like, hey, you need to do this and that. And I'm like, absolutely not, but I had a good discussion with, who was it? Oh yeah, my goalie coach when I was at Boston University, Brett. Like we had some good discussions going on, and he also at some point probably wanted to smash my head because he couldn't get into it. But we had a good discussion. What stuck with me with like what he said is like, you need to build your toolbox, um, it's like having like a garage with all your tools, like the more you get, obviously in every situation you're prepared for it. Whether you use that, I don't know, that drill once a year or 7,000 times a year, doesn't matter, but you have it. And that's something is important as a goalie as well. It's like try things. Maybe it sticks, maybe it works out for you, maybe it doesn't, but at least you tried, and at least you maybe came out of it smarter, because you can't know if someone works for you or doesn't if you don't try it. So have an open mind, but don't try to implement everything. That
Tools in
makes
the
sense.
Yeah, it does. We talk about tools in the toolbox all the time, and having an open mind,
Yeah.
but also understanding if those tools start to take you away from the foundation of what you
Yeah.
think makes you good. And so what would, flipping that on its ear a little bit, what is your foundation? What are your anchors, technically or tactically, that sort of allow you to play the way you do, which is, I mean, there's so much, it looks like there's so much precision and efficiency in movement, just tracking mechanics, but willing to, if you need to, go into battle mode. Like, but how do you find the balance between the two? What's your foundation?
It's tough because my foundation, I think that was built so many years ago. I can't really remember all of it.
Right.
But I think one of my core things that I always try to do is like stay on your feet as long as you can. Today, like these days, I would say like every time I go to like youth goalie camps, the first thing the goalies want to do is, oh God, can we do butterfly? Can we do reverse? Can we do sliding? And I'm like, no, we're going to do the skating first, because I think that's way more important than, everyone can slide. That doesn't really require that much like technical skills, I would say, even though it's fun. I have to admit that. But for me, my biggest like core strategy or technical like point is, or foundation is, stay on your feet as long as you can, because I think it allows you to have that freedom to also switch into battle mode when you have a good stance, because then you can use your full force that you have in your legs and your core and wherever. So yeah, I think that's my foundation where I build everything on.
How do you become a great skater? You're working with young kids in some of these camps. Other than just focusing on it, is there any keys to you to the patience required to hold your edges as well as you do, but then also the power and precision to move around on them as efficiently as you do?
Well, in terms of like skating, like getting comfortable with your skating, that's just a repetition thing, with everything. Get comfortable with staying on your feet. Is like, it's also trial and error in practices. Like young goalies, I always tell them, hey, try to focus on staying on your feet, even though you get beat low, even though you get a goal, doesn't matter. At least you held your edge, you held your position, everything. You're there, because at some point you will you will build also the reflexes of understanding where the shot is coming from, and your instincts and everything will kick in eventually too, once you get that internalized. So I think that's a practice thing. It's just like repetition wise, you just got to get as much repetition in as possible, as with everything almost in terms of goalie speaking, repetition.
Was skating a big part of, because like you said, we see a lot like the reverse and sliding, and
Hmm.
was skating a big
Yeah.
part of just sort of your roots in the game? You probably, like you said, you didn't start as a goalie, so I imagine playing out probably helped with that as well.
Oh, 100%. And I remember my we had a power skating coach where I grew up, in the team where I grew up, and his opinion was the goalie needs to be the best skater on the field. And I never really understood why until now, because now having that strong foundation within skating, and let me tell you, the hours I spent even in my goalie equipment doing the same drills as the skaters, whether that is like crossovers, turns, I did everything, and I absolutely hated it. Just like seriously hated it. But now I have to give a big thank you to that guy, because it makes learning new skills so much easier. Whatever, like advanced skills, like have like also like like rotations and all of that, makes it so much easier because I have that balance and that like feel, like fine tuning into my like edges. because I learned all of that when I was so young.
That's a great lesson because I think goalies
Yeah.
we always just want to go to the crease and even skating in the crease and doing crease movement patterns and we had a story about Connor Hellebuck when he was a teenager and didn't get drafted. We used to go to stick and puck and just skate. And so
Mhm.
skating's so important, but it doesn't always have to be within the confines of our crease. There's value
No,
to different things that challenge your edge work and you're proof that it pays off.
exactly. No, it's so important, to use the whole, like, you have so much ice available. The ice is so big. Use all of it, you know? Even
I
though
love
it kind of is hard on your conditioning. I get it. Let me tell you, I hated it. But it works. It works.
I love it. So at what point did you go? Who were some of your inspirations? Like, as you sort of moved up the ranks, who were the goalies that you looked up to, that you wanted to be like, that you maybe had that point where you start to emulate them and try and play like them? I mean, I think of Florence Schelling as maybe one of the greatest women's goaltenders of all time. Was she somebody that you, through the national team, got connected with? Was she an early inspiration? Who are the goalies that made you want to be a goalie?
We're actually, you probably don't know them. They're like Swiss goalies.
Okay.
One is called Reto Pavoni. He was the goalie when I was in Cloton, like, he was that last bit that made me commit to goalie.
Okay. So just
Because
watching.
when I was young, I remember going to a game with my dad and my brother, and they won that game because of him. He was the star of the show. He made, like, I don't even know how many saves, but so many. Everyone was celebrating him, and that was like the last bit that made me commit to being goalie. And then I obviously inspired to be him. I also picked his jersey number 20. I picked his number, yes.
I love it.
And then he kind of was always my role model going forward. But then once I got a bit older, I also realized I like something, like, obviously you want to play like your idol, your like, inspiration. I pretty early realized that's not the way I want to play. That doesn't fit me. So I realized really early that I want to kind of like I want to be like them, maybe like mentally or like in their like body language, but not playing wise. I want to create my own style.
I, I
So
love
I
that.
looked up to all those goalies, but I never really saw them as someone that I want to like copy and paste. So I always realized I want to be my own unique self.
Were there goalie coaches along the way in the early days? I just not. I mean, when I think of Swiss goaltending, I know there's a real strong history there of goalie coaches. We talk a lot about the Finnish program and the Swedish program, but there's always been a really strong goalie coaching fraternity within Switzerland as well. And I think too, like Francois Lair being there and running camps, and remember
Mhm.
talking to the Reto Berras of the world and the Jonas Hillers about those things. What was your experience with goalie coaching growing up in Switzerland?
I think I was very fortunate that I grew up in like a bigger club
Okay.
because they had the resources to have goalie coaches for all levels. Because I like, they obviously, if you grew up in a smaller club, they didn't have the resources to have goalie coaches until like later ages, and I think
Okay.
that has played a huge part in also my development because I got access to goalie coaches very, very early. Um, so also bad ones, but I remember my worst goalie coach that I had was the one that like drilled into me to stay on my feet. So I don't think he was the baddest one, but he wasn't the best. But he was the one that drilled it. He was one of the early coaches I had. I didn't like him, but he made me stay on my feet as long as I can, and here we are. So
The decision to come over, for at what point did NCAA become something you were considering, and the decision to go to the Ohio State? How did you get there, and what was that again? New voices, new coaches, new influences. How did you manage that?
it was pretty late in my career. I went over when it was in 2018 after my first Olympics. That's when I went over. So I was like 20-ish years old, so pretty late. Um, and the decision to actually go over didn't come until like my last year of under 18, when like first offers came in after the under 18 worlds in top division. I think it was in Buffalo. that's when the first offers came in, and I realized, hey, it's actually something I can achieve. Because before that, it was like, you grow up in Switzerland, you hear about college, and I obviously saw with Florence that went over to like play at Northeastern that it's possible, but I always like thought for myself, it's so far away. Like I have no chance of even achieving that. And then once under 18 came, I realized, hey, it's something I can achieve and I want to do that. And that's when I started actually like dreaming of it. And then Ohio State, it was I would say like love at first sight almost, or first like yeah experience. So because I talked with them, I went to an official visit, and once I was on campus, I was like, this is it. This is the place I want to be. So it was a pretty at the end a pretty easy decision.
Style of hockey different? Like when we move from different leagues and different and just not knowing what the style was like where you're playing in Switzerland into the U18s into NCAA, like what were some of the adjustments you had to make?
Obviously, biggest one, ice sheets. Like for going from the big European sheet to the small American sheet was a major change for me because it was the first time actually playing on a small ice, like on a regular basis. And I started to love that because I think it fits my style of like almost better when I don't have time to think too much. Like on the
Just
European ice, sometimes I have so much time to think that I'm like, okay, should I go now? Should I not? Should I wait a second? Like it's too much thinking. On an American ice or Olympic size sheet, that when we saw at the Olympics, love it. I could just go for it. Full blast out, slide over, safe, good, we're fine. So I think that I start to realize that the smaller ice actually fits my playing style way better.
did your style adjust as you got there? I mean, was there evolutions, anything takeaways that tools you did add at that point?
Oh, major like big ones. Yeah. I think like my coach at Ohio State, not really the goalie coach actually, but my head coach at Ohio State, she like really drilled some things into me about like not taking so much like going out as much out of the crease, staying more in my perimeter in the crease, for example. I think that has helped a lot with also like being patient, learning how to be patient. Because I think it's easier if you go out and in, you're like in that motion, it's easier to kind of match speed sometimes. But if you go out and in and stop, I think it's harder for you to actually match, like find the patience to stay there and move when they move. I think that has been the biggest turning point for me and what I would call now my biggest success because I'm so patient sometimes, almost too patient sometimes. But so far so good, I would say.
Well, you're right. That it's interesting, and that's a big adjustment to sort of what's the phrase, like just to sort of sit and, as they say, let it come to you. Again, one of these things that's really easy to say from my couch, but really hard to do when you're on the ice, especially if you're used to playing a backwards flow game.
Exactly. And it's like it's also like it helps you in your mind to stay sharp and not be too much. I think it's easy for goalies to be like all over the place. You can still see that sometimes in pro leagues when they're like all over the place because they think they have to. They think they have to be like, oh, I need to be there and there and this and there. I need to be aggressive, not and all of that. No, it's not. It's not necessary. Just like take a deep breath, calm down. It's one step and done, basically, and not just go back and forth and there and this and that. And I'm like, guys, chill, relax.
Eventually, it has to. In order to go into the net, it has to come through you if you're sitting and waiting.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And if you're not there, something you need to check out why. Maybe it's position wise and everything, but like it will come to you eventually. Don't have to chase it.
2022 national champions, but not before the Olympics and the disappointment of not winning the bronze medal game. I can't imagine what that emotional roller coaster must have been, especially at a time with pandemic and all the extra stuff that went into it, to go from the challenges mentally of being so close, and then right back into the competitive nature of a national championship and winning. Like, what do you remember that experience, and what did you learn from it?
I would say hardest or most challenging year of my career, like season of my career. Not only like playing wise, going from like Olympics and back and all of that, like the strain on your body, but mentally incredibly hard. Having that like always like that mental side, because I was in college obviously before the Olympics, and at some point they told us, like our national team literally sent us an email. They were like, "Hey, if you test positive with COVID by this day, you are not coming to the Olympics." And I was in the US at that time, and we had a positive case in my team during that time frame.
Well, that would just, the stress would be unbelievable.
Oh my God, I see you can't imagine that the stress I felt every single day. So I talked with and I was very fortunate that I was able to talk with my coaches at that time. And they also agreed of being like, hey, maybe it's smarter for you to step away from the team and just like go on the ice only with the goalie coach, because then you can control who are you were in contact with. And I talked with the team. They were also okay with that, obviously, so I was able to do that. So it took away some stress for me mentally. But yeah, until I was in Beijing at the Olympics on that like first game on the ice, I was major stressed, really. So then focusing on the game was hard, but also kind of easier because it was so much relief that you're actually there. um, and then losing the bronze medal, heartbreaking. But I think it was easier for me because I went right back in. I didn't allow myself to have that breakdown, to have that like tension get out of my body. I just kind of like kept it in a small little box inside of myself and then just kept going. And I think that helped with getting back into the flow and getting back into college hockey and actually winning that national championship at the end. But after that season, I was like majorly sick for like 1.5 weeks because
So,
the whole tension just like released. My body was just like shut down. So now I'm done, guys. Bye.
so national championship, but you wouldn't recommend it from a health standpoint to bottle it all up like that.
No, no, like psychologically speaking, not healthy at
Not
all.
okay, okay. But in the moment, you had to go from one to the other. So
Yeah,
like you're doing right
yeah,
now, from an elation standpoint, right into 2 games and
yeah,
playoffs.
exactly. No, I think it helped at that point, but I'm not going to recommend it to anyone.
Okay, okay. And then the next year, you decided to go to BU. Was that more of a schooling thing than as opposed to the hockey side of it? Like, it would have been tough to walk away from a national championship team at Ohio State.
Yes and no. I think it was nice to finish on a high note. I think it made the transition easier to go away. It also helped that I finished my bachelor's in that the same year, because it kind of gave me a clean cut to Ohio. It made it easier to make the transition. And yes, BU was mainly a school, like academic decision,
Okay.
because they offered like a 1 year master's program, and Ohio State unfortunately didn't. But I also felt like I needed a change, like playing wise. Sometimes you just feel like, hey, Ohio State, like the coaches, the team, the whole experience gave me everything they could. Like I can't evolve anymore from Ohio State. I need something else. I need a new challenge, I would say, that like kind of like challenged myself as a player and as a person again, because I got too comfortable in Ohio. So I made the decision go away and move to a different city again in a country, I'm not 100% familiar with. It was hard and challenging and took me out of the comfort zone. But after, like looking back now, best decision ever.
From there into the Swedish League.
Yes.
Walk me through that. And I'm trying to do the timing in my head. Was PWHL an option as well? Or were you always headed back there? Or walk me through that process, that decision making. And I'm going to
Mhm.
try. I was always told just to call it Ovik. But you go to play for Modo in Örnsköldsvik. Is that close?
Oh, good one. That was really
This
close.
is what happens when you cover Marcus Naslund and the Sedin twins for most of their careers. You
True, they
learn a
are
few
from there.
words.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we call it Övik, easier for everyone. Because I also had to like on an Instagram reel, I had to like say the name my first week ever in Swedish or in Sweden. It was embarrassing. So this actually sounds pretty good for me. But yeah, no, PWHL wasn't an option at that time. Like
Okay.
it was still the other league, the PHF, I
Right.
think was it at that? Yes.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that I had the option between that and Sweden. And Sweden just like that was straight up gut feeling.
Okay.
And I going back now, I had a long talk with Florence Schelling at that point because I asked her for advice because she also had a similar like I would say like path in her career, like going to which place she played. So I asked her, hey, like, what should I do? And she gave me a good advice that I'm going still by now is that like at the end of the day, good hockey you'll find pretty much everywhere nowadays in women's hockey. You know, obviously there's differences, especially now looking at PWHL and Sweden and all of that. Like there's differences, but at the end of the day, good hockey you'll find pretty much everywhere, especially from a goalie perspective, because as a goalie, you just need to play. Um, so we found that pretty much in a lot of places. The only thing that will change is how you like it there, you know, and that's just sometimes gut feeling. Sometimes it's just like feel more natural going to one place or another. And that's why I went to Sweden because it just felt more natural to me, I would say, or felt more comfortable with going there than going to a team in the PHF.
Now we talk about goalie coaching in Sweden. I mean, famous for their national program. What kind of goalie coaching? How did you notice? Did you notice a difference? What kind of access to goalie coaching did you have in Moto?
Pretty good. We had a goalie coach that was there 3 times a week in our practices, and then was there for games or if you want like video stuff as well. Like he was pretty much available for you. Um, he was, I would say, like the biggest difference there. It was the switch between like college, kind of like youth hockey. I wouldn't call it youth hockey, but like more youth hockey, and going to a pro league because I was a pro as I'm still I am a pro in Sweden.
Yep.
So it's like you get treated more like an adult than in college. College was more like also like hierarchies, like coach, goalie coach, and then you're like on the bottom, so you are not allowed to do anything basically.
Right.
So you're just like taking orders almost. And in Sweden, it was more dialogue. Like,
So
and
more of a back
we
and
like
forth.
it was a back and forth, and I remember sitting down with him in like the first week I was there, and we talked about, hey, what do I need? What expectation he has? What he thinks he could give me? And then we were discussing that too. It was a big dialogue going on, and then we like kind of like at the end of this meeting, we're on the same page of what we both want and what I need, what he wants or needs, and you know vice versa, and all of that. And that just like went on for the whole season, and then we sat down again the following year. So it's like it was a big dialogue going on, and I really enjoyed that.
And is that like when we talk about the different experiences you've had with coaching? Is that your like if you were speaking to goalie coaches right now, would that be your recommendation for the ideal? To
Yes.
understand your
Yeah.
athlete and what they think their strengths are, add what you think you can, but not in a this is how we do it hammer way, more of a
Mhm.
conversation.
No, 1,000%. Yes, I think it was that was the biggest change for me, and what I would call my ideal goalie coach is that you have someone that is your mentor, your friend, and your coach at the same time, whatever you need, you know. And then it's just like you're not like it's not like the goalie coach is above you when you're like below him. It's more like you're on the same level, you talk with each other and you see what's going on. And I think it was a game changer for me.
Top goalie in the SDHL in 24-25 moved to Frölunda. What sparked that? And again, new voice, new coach. How has that gone?
Oh, I mean, see, I think the main difference here is that the goalie coach here is like a year younger than me.
Oh wow,
And then, yes, I
that's
know,
a different
crazy,
dynamic. Yeah.
crazy. I know it took me a while. We call him it's kind of funny. My second goalie or my goalie partner here, we call him our middle child because he's like between us age wise. He also acts like a middle child sometimes, so it's kind of funny. I think that was a big change. But the reason I came here was more like also a new challenge. Olympic year, I knew I had to again step up a bit, get a bit more professional, just get that extra 5% in. And looking back now at the Olympics, perfect, decision, so yeah, it was good. But yeah, that was the biggest change that my goalie coach now is like younger than me. So it's a different dynamic. Yes.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
And for Linda, obviously, I mean, I tend to the Lundqvist jersey hanging behind
Yeah.
me. I'm imagine there's it like from a goalie standpoint. We talk about a guy who had intensity. You would sort of see him around, like see his image and all the things he does it for Lunda, and yet he was famous for that burning intensity and don't talk on game days. And I don't get the sense you're that person. I get the sense that you have to be the dances and the looking into the crowds. That's important, I think, message for goalies that we're just getting to, that it's okay to be yourself, that stereotype, and it worked for Hank, obviously, but that stereotype, a lot of goalies try to be that just because they think that's what they're supposed to be. And I think you're a perfect example in terms of approach that's not always, for some, yes, but not for all.
No, exactly. It's about like having an idol, having a role model, but not copying him. Because like you got to realize just because it worked for him doesn't mean it works for me. And it was also a learning process for me because I was also like dead serious sometimes when I was in college. My first 3 years in college was like that.
Because you thought you had to be, or just that was where you got to?
See, I don't even know why exactly. I think it was more like it worked for me one time when I was super serious. And you know how it is. Sometimes you just like get so superstitious then.
Yep.
You think you have to do it exactly like that again.
Yep. Something works, and then you can quickly take it to an extreme.
No, exactly. And it got to the point where it got to an extreme where I was like, if you talk to me, I either gonna kill you or I'm like playing super bad, you know? So, and then it kind of like crashed down to me because it got too much for me mentally to handle. Like I almost went into like, I wouldn't call it burnout, but I got so mentally tired because it was too much to handle. That's whole superstitions and all of that.
And that's not who you are.
No, exactly. I was trying to be someone else that I wasn't, but it took me a big bang almost, or like a big failure to realize that. And that's when we lost the national championship game, or in the Frozen Four, we lost to Wisconsin in the first game in the semifinal. That's when I realized that this is not who I am anymore at all. And that's when I started to change and go back into my like loose self and just having fun and don't take it too serious because it's really not. And that's when the big success basically came. On personally speaking, I thought that's when the success started for me. You know?
Teammates describe you as calm in these big moment games, the composure. These are the words that get thrown around, and yet you're having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it a good example that you don't have to appear stoic to be composed?
Exactly. But again, that's just my way of maybe also dealing with that pressure and that like those big moments. Is that like I don't know, like try to be as loose as possible in my like in that like scenario or in that like field. I have some movements, so I try to be as loose as possible without losing the tension. But that's a way like that's again trial and error. It took me so long to get to that point where I just like can switch, like I can hit the flip, like switch flip, and I am in that like state of emotions or state of clarity where I'm like loose but focused. That makes sense.
That state, is that where you find like is that where you find confidence? Obviously, you built confidence throughout the Olympics, through all the games and all the success you had. But are there moments? I mean, everybody has them where maybe you're not feeling it. Where how do you manufacture it for yourself? Like, how do you build confidence? Any advice you can share there?
Yes. I think obviously I'm not perfect in retaining that state of focus and clarity and all of that. I can just give an example during the bronze medal game. I literally switched within like 2 or 3 minutes between like, oh my God, I'm the most useless person. Why am I on this ice? And between like I'm the best goal in the world. Like it's just like it was a roller coaster of emotion. I think what helped me there is that I was so good in focusing on the little things. It could have been the least dangerous shot. Like a dump in from a Swedish player that hit me, and I got the perfect rebound onto the stick of my defense. Like I took so much confidence out of those little, the tiniest, most like necessary things probably on the ice that probably some people were like didn't even see, that this happened. But for me, those little moments, those little saves, those little actions got me so much confidence that throughout the whole game, I built the confidence around like away from my emotional state and more towards like I can do this. And then at the end of the game, I was like, I'm fine. I got this.
So
But the first couple of moments were horrible.
So is that self-talk? Does it just happen, those little moments? Like, hey, I got this. Yeah, I got that save. No problem. I did that perfectly. Like, how do you like doing it and having those little moments that, like you said, may seem like simple save executioners or a simple leave or a puck handle, but using it to feel the confidence. Is it an active exercise of sort of talking yourself through? Hey, like I did that perfectly. I'm great. Like, how does that work?
It's a mixture between like talking, yes, being like, oh, what a save. Sometimes just a little bit like that just gets you also like a little smirk on your face, makes you a little laugh, and that
Yeah.
just also gives you some looseness.
Yeah.
But also between like I just like I kind of like hit the switch in my brain or hit the stop button in those negative like thoughts. I had like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And I'm like, no, stop, and then just focused on a save. It wasn't necessarily a talk, like a sentence I said, but more like in my brain, I like just like focused on the next thing. I just stopped it and focused on the next thing. But you can, for other goalies, it can be like an active word being like, hey, stop. You can say stop in your head or out loud because no one will hear you. And even if they don't, even if they do, who cares? If they hear you talk to yourself, we're goalies. We're allowed to talk to
We're
ourselves.
supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. We are supposed to be weird anyway. So do whatever you want.
Oh, this is great advice. Fantastic advice. This has
Yeah.
been a fantastic. I'm looking at the clock and I'm realizing we just talked about your busy schedule at the beginning, and I've taken close to an hour of it, Andrea. Thank you. Thank you. There's so many great little takeaways that I know goalies of all ages are going to listen to and be able to apply it. Like I said, whether it's, their U8 practice or playoff starting over here or right into junior and pro. It's thank you so much for the time. Congratulations on the Olympic bronze and best of luck in the SDHL playoffs coming up.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.